Anyway, the Maple Leafs have been disposed of, and the Panthers go on to the Eastern Conference Finals again, which is truly unbelievable. And one of the things that I want to talk about today, because I saw a question posed on the 5 Reasons Sports Twitter account, which said, where is Paul Maurice now in all-time South Florida coaches or managers? And you have to make a case that Paul Maurice, I mean, think about it. They're down 2-0. And again, they've gone to the Stanley Cup 2 years in a row. They're in the Eastern Conference Finals again. But Paul Maurice was brought in to fix an already really good team, has done so. And just in this series with Toronto, they're down 2-0. Doesn't faze him. They lose game 6. Doesn't faze him. Guys come out. They play an unbelievable game last night. And so I saw that question, but this is what got me really intrigued by it. I don't know if you follow Adam Lichtenstein from the Sun Sentinel. He covers the Hurricanes. But his answer, he said off the dome. So I don't know if he'd give it too much thought. He had Don Shula as number 1, Jimmy Johnson, number 2, Howard Schnellenberger, number 3, Paul Maurice, 4, and Eric Spoelstra, 5. I think, again, I mean, he covers the Hurricanes, so
Well,
I understand.
I was going to say there's a little bit of
I understand the bias
there.
towards the Hurricanes, although you can understand Jimmy Johnson led them to national championships. Howard Schnellenberger revitalized a program that we wouldn't be enjoying. I mean, he's certainly in the conversation. I mean, he put them on the map football-wise. And then he's got honorable mentions for Dennis Erickson, Butch Davis, Jack McKeon, and Jim Larinaga.
So every Canes coach is involved.
Well, again, he's saying off the dome, and he's covers the Hurricane. So I understand the bias there, but I wonder where, because we've talked a lot about Bill Zito. There's certainly a lot of conversations about where does Bill Zito now fall in the hierarchy. Is it Pat 1, Zito 2?
I think for now, but Zito's got a chance, I think, to surpass Riley, which is insane to say. But if this run keeps up over the next few years, he's got a shot. But still, right now, right this second, it's Pat 1 and Zito 2. And I think there's a big goal.
Well, a lot of people do anything, though, based on recency bias. The recency bias is Bill Zito and that Pat Riley keeps whiffing. I get that. If you look at it in totality, I'm with you. Riley's number 1.
Got 3 championships here. I mean, what are we doing?
And put together arguably the greatest NBA team assembled in the modern era. Did something that no one else had done really up until that point. But Paul Maurice too, like we talk a lot about Bill Zito and we talk a lot about obviously Matthew Tkachuk and then the acquisitions, Brad Marchand and Seth Jones had a great game. But we talk about the players, we talk about the front office, but Paul Maurice has to be in the conversation, right? Of greatest coach or manager in South Florida history. And what is he, just 2.5 years in?
Yeah, not Pat. Don Shula was definitely the first name that came to mind.
Right.
Spo was a little low on Adam's list for me.
Yes.
Multi-time champion head coach. Maurice is in the conversation, but I don't think, because it's only still one championship.
No longevity.
He's just entering that conversation of being like in that 4 or 5 range for me. But it's insane to think back. Now, I never was a non-believer in Paul Maurice. I know you guys can't say the same, but
I believe I called for his firing the first season.
And you were not the only one. But like, you think about how many instances, like 2 high-profile members of this current team, Sergei Bobrovsky and Paul Maurice, have completely flipped the narrative that was around them from the beginning of their tenures with the Panthers. Now, Paul was only about 3/4 of a season before they turned it on. Bob was not what they expected when they spent $10 million a year on him. The first 2 years he was here, he was just an average goaltender. But the way that those two specifically have flipped the narrative on what their tenure with the Panthers looks like, it's been one of the coolest aspects of this. And that first Paul Maurice season, and I was saying it to you guys every time I would come on, you'd ask me, and you laughed in my face about it. And I said, look, guys, I know they're not getting the results, but I know what I'm watching. They're playing okay and well at times as they're trying to get used to this system that we now know as Paul Ball. And you see once it starts flowing and once it starts going and they pick it up and they buy in, this is the result. And then on top of that, you've got a general manager in Bill Zito who you can count on one hand the amount of misses that he's had in player acquisitions. Like, I remember being so uneasy, not just player acquisition wise, but so uneasy about, oh, Andrew Burnett took over a really difficult situation, led them to the President's Trophy. Like, even if you don't think he's the guy, like, hasn't he kind of earned another shot?
I thought it was a huge mistake. I thought it was a huge mistake to let him go.
Yeah, and like I at the time, I'm like, I'm a little uneasy, but I feel like Zito kind of deserves the benefit of the doubt. But you think of all the massive swings he took in that offseason, right?
Yeah.
Which I think when you juxtapose that on what Pat Riley's last few years have looked like, not that he hasn't tried. It's been well documented that he's tried, but what's come to fruition.
Well,
What Bill
I
Zito
would
has
say
put together, like what the Leafs need to do is basically what the Panthers did the year they got swept in the second round by the Lightning. I don't know if there's a Matthew Tkachuk type out there that they can acquire. Like Mitch Marner is going to walk, most likely. But like they're in that same position where they have a really good regular season team, but it's just not built for the postseason. And Zito has completely flipped that here.
By the way, Josh Bell is in for Channing Crowder today. Crowder is unavoidably out of pocket. And so Appel will sit in for us. Clay Ferrero is going to join us today. And Chris Whittingham is going to join us today. I would say one of the differences between Riley and Zito on player acquisition, I think Riley has been much more conservative. You can have this person. These guys are untouchable. And I think Bill Zito has kind of been like, make me an offer on anyone. I'll listen. I mean, the Huberdeau trade obviously is an example of that. I don't know if there was anyone off limits, though, for the Panthers. And so there's something to be said for taking big hacks and connecting, and he's done so.
I mean, Spencer Knight was supposed to be the goalie of the future, right?
Shocked
I mean,
me, and I thought that was a terrible maneuver. Even though Bill Zito has all kinds of cachet in my book, I was like, what are you doing? And then Seth Jones has been great.
Was the best player on the ice last night, arguably. Yeah, I think you absolutely nailed that part of it, in that Riley is hesitant to give up a guy like Hero, include him in those conversations. I don't know. I mean, Solana would probably speak to this better than I can as it relates to Bam in these trade discussions. But I mean, those two guys are the equivalent of trading a guy in Huberdeau who has been.
I think Tyler Hero's pretty equivalent to Huberdeau, and I think he was completely off. Well, I shouldn't say completely off limits, but I think he was very hesitant to move a piece like that. And I think obviously you've seen the results. And again, it doesn't always work. It's worked for Zito. Doesn't always work. You see it not work. When you think about all-time coaches, Solana, you have Spo above Maurice at this point. I think you kind of have to.
6 NBA Finals appearances for Eric Spoelstra. I know I'm biased. I know, but
I think we would all have Spo in front of Paul Maurice. I think Adam Lichtenstein's probably on an island on that one.
Yeah, and it's not an indictment on Paul Maurice. Like Eric Spoelstra did it with LeBron. I get that, and most people are going to say, well, 4 of those were with LeBron, and it was all LeBron. But the dude is widely regarded as the best or second best coach in the NBA.
Plenty of coaches have LeBron and not go to the NBA Finals. So to me, that's like the worst argument. I hate when people do that. Oh, you had LeBron. Oh, really? Well, so did David Blatt.
Right. That's the first name that popped into my head, too.
Where do you have Darvin Hamon on your list, Adam Lichtenstein? Huh?
All of a sudden, it became a first segment to bash Adam Lichtenstein.